Yeah, welcome in everyone, it's your favourite captain here, Captain Sccorpy, here with another video for you all. Now, we're going camless today because this isn't my usual type of video. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the game Moonbreaker. And for that, we're going to be doing a unit review. So we're going to have a look at what units are great, what ones are must-have, and what ones could be possibly just leave behind, which ones are situational, all the rest of it. Now, going into this video, if you don't know what Moonbreaker is, maybe go and find out a little bit about it. I could tell you all about it, but that's not what this video is about. So this is more of a video for those who are already familiar with Moonbreaker, especially those who would be familiar with Astra, Extelior, and Zax, the three captains who are currently available in Moonbreaker. And all these other pieces here, these are just your crew. These are the units that we're going to be discussing. So if you're coming in here and thinking, John, what the hell is this Moonbreaker nonsense? Go on, find out about it. If you like it, play a few games, and then come back and I can give you my thoughts and opinions on each of the units as we go on. So, first off, Antios Gauntlet. Oh, look at him. Look at this guy. Big giant gauntlet. Oh, I didn't actually realise it protrudes out like that. Like, psh, cool. I didn't realise that before. That's really cool. I like that. So, what is he? Well, he's a 1 cost for 1 damage and 6 health. And he has a Cinder ability, 2. For 2 cost, gain +3 attack and first strike this turn. So first strike, as it says, targets don't fight back. Off the bat, you might think, this looks pretty good. He can get in, he can hit for 4, no one can hit him back. Okay, that does seem quite good. However, you're playing him turn 1, he hits for 1. When you get to turn 2, you're then going to have to spend this energy to get that effect. So if you're using this, you don't have a turn 2 play. All of a sudden, this boy doesn't look like you want him in turn 1. No. For someone like Astra, who has Into the Breach and boost morale, absolutely, you could play him later on and get all his benefits for free. For someone like Extelior, who can maybe shield him, yeah, you can play him later on. For someone like Zax, he's not appearing there. Of course, I've done a paint job for Zax. For someone like Zax who can move units in together, maybe you can move him in, let him do his punching, and get him out again. Very, very situational, where I would honestly say the only one that probably wants to run him would probably be Astra. He's too expensive in terms of this, in terms of his inner energy. It's too expensive when you can use that for better things. So for Zax, for example, you might want to use Gravity Disc. For Extelior, you might want to use his Sword of Justice, to get in and smack a whole bunch of people for 3. And then there's just, for anyone else, maybe you want to play Blindsider, Itztly, I don't know how to pronounce that. Maybe you want to play Blindsider, maybe you want to play Deadeye, Detonia. There's just other options that you can do for 2 cost, where he just falls flat. So, Antios, the Gauntlet, is a bit meh to me. That's what I would say. Drumdancer. Our gal, Olga, loves playing the drums. So, Battle Frenzy. She is a 1 cost who can give a melee unit pummel for the turn. Pummel just means they get to hit twice. She deals 2 damage and has 5 health. So a low health cost, but a bit offset by the kind of average damage there. And not only that, she can give herself pummel. So this is quite good. Now, this, weirdly, is a better option than Gauntlet. So that sounds weird to say, because obviously, we're looking at the 2 of them. She gives a melee unit pummel for the turn. She would hit for 4. But John, he would just give, first strike, he'd hit for 4. Well, you would be correct. But here's the thing. They would be correct, but here's the thing. is the fact that she can give that to anyone. So eventually, she could give that to someone who is hitting harder. So let's have a look at this guy, Blindsider. He gains +2 attack and fast when you've got no Cinder. He goes up to 4. She gives him the double hit. Boom. He's hitting you for 8. Or other champions that you can use. He's only ever going to give himself plus 3. Okay, there are other champions units like Tipu, who are going to grow in size and strength constantly. She could easily let someone hit for 16 damage because you can get people up to 8 damage. So, I would say she's pretty good. She's not a must-have because it honestly depends on your deck, but your roster. So, I would say good, but not a must-have. Because she can give it to herself, but she can give it to other people, and that's the most important thing. She is low cost on the health side though, but she is very cheap to get out. So if you're smart with her and use it at the right time, that can be game changing for you, but it is situational game changing, I would say. Right. So you can see I've painted this boy. Got our boy Maximus. I'll wait for the paint job to load up. So there we are, there he is, look at him, gorgeous. So, what can we say about Maximus? What has he not got is what we can say. He has Rapid Fire, he has Fleet-Footed, he's got 1 damage and he's got 6 health. So, he can't be burst down right away. Yes, he's only dealing 1 damage, however, he's got Rapid Fire. So this 1 damage all of a sudden becomes 2. But there's another thing about Moonbreaker. Every single unit has a chance to critically strike whenever they fire. So, most units are hitting at 2. You know what I mean? Most are hitting at 2 with a chance to crit. This boy's hitting for 1 with a chance to crit twice. He is innately better than a unit who hits for 2 because he hits twice, and also there are other units in the game that can buff up his damage. This guy becomes very annoying because not only that, Fleet-Footed. Whenever Maximus damages a target, refresh his move. He peeks out, he hits you, and he goes back to hiding again. He can keep himself safe, and with a beefy 6 amount of health, he can't be burst down too easily. Not in early game anyway. Yeah, sure, maybe in late game, but not in early game. And by the time it gets to late game, he's already got more than his value is worth. He is a must-have in every roster, I would argue. An absolute must-have, definitely an MVP of the game. Just because of all of this. And what you could do to him. He has synergy with most things. He can move around, keep himself safe, and he can plink you and wear you down as the game goes on. So yeah, absolute must-have. Beatris Enforcer. So what is she? She's a 2 cost. She does have slow, but she is armoured. She deals 2 damage. She's got 7 health. And when it attacks, it damages all units in a line behind the target. So if you've manoeuvred yourself into a situation, Beatris will hit the target and hit anything that's behind it, including your own units. Okay, so bear in mind that it can hurt your own units, so positioning is very, very important with the Beatris Enforcer. Also, it does have slow, so you're going to have to utilise different movement-based tactics to try and pincer things in, prevent people from moving. The unfortunate thing with the slow, she's never ever catching Astra. So Astra already beats this on basis alone because Astra can hop over things. And the Beatris Enforcer doesn't have the speed to catch up. However, Beatris Enforcer is armoured. So what does armour mean? Well, as it says there, you've reduced the damage by 1. So really already, this 7 health effectively becomes 14. Because you're having to deal double damage to get that 7 down. So realistically, 14. So if you think about it that way, it's effectively 14 health with slow for 2 that deals 2 damage. A beefy, beefy boy. or beefy hero. I'm not sure what gender they are. I would say it's alright. Because of the slow, you can get use of her if you're playing Astra, because Astra uses, and again, we'll be saying this for a lot of units, by the way, because currently, right now, Astra uses Into the Breach. You can have her come down tactically into the Breacher and smack a bunch of things for 2 all at one go. But that's only with Astra. Anyone else, she's good, or he's good, again, don't know what gender they are. It's a good unit, but I wouldn't say it's a must-have or broken. It's, in fact, is it good or is it just decent? I would probably say this is a decent unit. So it's not one that you want to have. Not one you want to have all the time, but it's decent in a situationally. And maybe if you want to have a bit of beef in your roster. Right. Blindsider. Well, we spoke a bit about this boy already. Oh, look at this. Just having a great time. Just, like, hanging up there, overlooking the view, enjoying the scenery. Ah, builds character. Right, so, 2 cost, 2 attack, 6 health. Fairly standard. But it gains +2 attack and fast when you have no Cinder. So fast simply means increased movement range. So, when you've ran out of Cinder, this becomes 4 attack and double movement. I don't know if it's double movement, but increased movement anyway. That's pretty good. The issue is, it's when you have no Cinder. So you have to be sure about your Cinder costs exactly to get the best use out of them. But if you can get use out of them, then this becomes a very powerful unit who can sweep in, smack something from out of nowhere. The only issue is, because it's melee, once you've rushed in and committed, you're committed. So you might suffer some crackback. It is probably best used to pick off other ranged units who have a bit low health P and just burst them down completely. So you wouldn't use, I wouldn't use this one to attack Extelior, for example, because he's just going to get hit back and that 6 becomes 4, that 6 goes down to 2, which puts him in kill range for anything. So you want to take out, you want to use him to get around and pick off targets, but I would say this is a very, very good unit. Maybe not must have, but certainly up there. It's just got too much versatility. The one thing that probably stops it from being must have is when you have no Cinder. I don't know like what this could do. Like if it was just maybe a 1 cost game +2 attack and fast, absolutely, maybe this would be a must have. But because it's a no Cinder, you do have to work around it. So that prevents it from being must have, but still a very good unit. Deadeye. Nice and simple. Deadeye. It's just like, yeah, pick a bit monkeys, show me where they are. Well, I don't even know what these things are called. I'm calling them monkeys, so like space monkeys, but I have no idea what they're actually called. So, release Uzos. Give ranged ally 40% accuracy for 2 turns. This is a clutch ability. Because in this game where everything's in percentages, giving someone that plus 40% is kind of fantastic, especially for 1 cost. It's a cheap cost just to kind of ensure that somebody or something is going to hit. And also, it's not for the next hit, it's for 2 turns. Remember that it's for 2 whole turns. So you can use it on somebody on 1 turn, and then when it comes to the next turn, you can use it on someone else, and both of them will now have plus 40% accuracy. So this unit, if you're going low cost aggro, I would say he's a must have. Like, absolutely. If you're going low cost... Oh, I'm saying he. Oh, it's a she. Oh, is that Bosoms? I don't know. I think it is. I think I've just mischanged them. My goodness. So Deadeye, yeah. Deadeye is, I would say, a must-have in a low-cost roster. But other than that, if you're looking for beefiness, it is only 6 health for 2 cost, which is fairly standard. If you're looking for something a bit more beefy, maybe not. Maybe if you're going a more defensive roster, maybe you're not wanting to have Deadeye. But still, very good unit. I like it a lot. Detonia. Deal 2 damage to all units in an area. 2 cost, 8 health. So we've got a bit of beefiness. It's going to do 2 damage to a lot of things. So what we have to think about this, right? Detonia is 2 cost. And it costs 2 to use her ability. However, this 2 damage is always going to hit. And it's hitting in an area. So we have to think about action economy. I could play a 2 cost, right? And I can set them down. So let's, for example, let's talk about Deadeye. I play Deadeye for 2. He can't do anything because Summoning Sickness. Let's ignore Astra for a second. So I'll play Deadeye for 2. Next turn, he hits something for 2. Turn after that, he hits something for 2. Turn after that, he hits something for 2. So from the point of deployment, on the turn 1 you deploy him. Turn 2 he hits something. Turn 3 he hits something. Turn 4, or sorry, she hits something. So already it's 4 turns to deal 6 damage. Detonia, you have the capability of dealing 6 damage in 2 turns. Theoretically. However, this is taking a unit slot as well. So it becomes, if units are grouped up, do you want to do the 6 damage? Or do you want something else to get on the field? You've got decisions to make here. But certainly having Detonia on the field creates this threat. And they've got 8 health. Kind of beefy. Quite a good unit, I would argue. Not a must-have, not a great unit, but definitely good. Situational. Worth considering, depending on what your playstyle is like. So Fatetwister. Choose a unit. If friendly, its next attack will hit. If enemy, its next attack will miss. I will be honest, I feel like Fatetwister is a bit of a scam. Because you're paying 2 for someone who doesn't have any attack, who's just going to ensure that you're going to hit with 5 health. It's got low health, so it's not beefy. And all you're doing is making either one of your units hit, or you're making one of the enemy miss. But realistically, what does that matter? Because if you choose an enemy to miss, the opponent's just going to use another enemy to attack with. It's not going to care. If you're using it on someone to make sure it's got an attack, that's fair. But we've already got Deadeye who can increase. We can increase accuracy for 40%. So Fatetwister, I think, is just kind of not. I wouldn't say trash or garbage, but I can only see it being exclusively clutch, very, very situationally. I see it as a wasted slot. There's just so many better options out there where I wouldn't really have them in any roster that I can think of. You can argue with me if you like. Maybe you have a soft spot for Fatetwister. I don't know, but this is just my opinion, where I think it's kind of a wasted slot and you're not getting much value for what it gives. So I would basically not have this unit in my rosters. Rickety Backfire. When it attacks, has a 70% chance to damage itself and all units in range. So Rickety is a 2 cost with 3 attack and 5 health. So for its cost, it's got low health but it's got high attack, and it has a chance to smack everything. This guy's a sacrificial lamb. You're throwing him in, dealing a bunch of damage, and he's not going to survive the turn. Do you know what I mean? So he's only got 5 health. So again, as I said, Astra would like to have him because Astra can unlock him right away and get use of that 3 damage out the go if your units are grouped up enough. He can do big plays. But if you're Extelia or Zax, he has a turn before he can, pop off. And because of that 1 turn delay with that 5 health, people will see him and just go, I'll just get rid of him then, won't I? Don't want to deal with that 3 damage. Because if you pop him off, you might position him in such a way where, oh yeah, it comes to his turn, but he's going to deal damage. He might do damage to himself. So he shoots for 3, hits something, and then just kills himself anyway without hitting anything else. So for Astra, yes, Astra. If you're playing Astra, you probably want to consider him in your roster. If you're playing Zax or Extelior, maybe not. Definitely a very situational unit that you have to weigh the pros and cons of why is it you want them in your team and what is it you're going to do with him when he's there. Right now, the low health and the fact that he hits himself, I'm avoiding this unit just because I don't typically play Astra, but again, I think there's better units out there that can fill in the spot that he fills. Stitchy McPatchy. His 2 cost, restores 3 health to a unit. He has 1 damage and 7 health. So, he's a beefy boy who can heal himself and heal your team. This is what I like to call Extelior's best friend. He can also help Zax and Astra, but Extelior, because of his shield ability, Extelior can shield himself, take less damage, get Stitchy up here to patch him up, and already you've kind of got a recurring thing of health going his way. The health does cost 2 to use, don't forget that. It does cost 2 health to restore 3, but it's definitely useful to Extelior, keeps him in the game, and also helps him with Extelior because he wants to get in melee range. It helps prevent the crackback. This pretty much negates the crackback that Extelior would face when he's hitting things like, head on. So Stitchy McPatchy, honestly, if you're playing Extelior and you don't have him in your roster, what the hell are you doing? Anyone else? Nah, he can kind of go in or out. Astra might want to take him if she wants to go defensive, because Astra can play a lot of versatile roles. Zax plays too safe to have this be a worthwhile option. Zax can keep himself safe with his pushback, like just from hitting. He can keep himself safe with his mines. He can keep himself safe with his grav pool. There's a lot of things that Zax can do where Zax might not need the healing. If you want it in there for safety, you can, but I think Zax is too much in his kit where Stitchy just doesn't go well with him. But again, like I say, Extelior, this is a must-have. So Stitchy, an all-rounder, generally a very good unit. Taria. The low-cost aggro dream. Oh, turn 1 Max, turn 2 Taria, and this is what we live for. So, what does Taria do? Seize initiative. Gives a ranged unit rapid fire for the turn. And she's got 2 attack, 5 health, and she is a 2 cost. So, again, Astra throws into the breach. In fact, on turn 3 she can do it, but Astra can throw it into the breach to unlock her in the late game. Taria can then synergize with things like Broken Vengeance or other units to give them rapid fire, and that means they get hurt twice. She can also, much like the Drumdancer, she can also give it to herself. I love her in a Zax low cost aggro deck because she has been very, very clutch for me in so many situations, and it has been wonderful. There's a lot of synergy here, just from various units, as I've already said. Low cost, yes, the Siege Initiative costs Cinder to use, but it can be very, very worthwhile. And bear in mind, turn 3, so if you drop her turn 2 and you've dropped Max turn 1, right? Come turn 3, if you've got nothing to play, that's 6 damage you have on the field without your captain. If you're playing Extelior or Zax, that's 8 damage. If you're playing Astra, it's 7. She is only 5 health, so she can be killed fairly easy. She is a wee squish, but I think she's a great unit. There are rosters who don't want to have her, but for me, I think she's a wonderful unit to have. So I would include her in most of mine, but it's up to you how you feel about it. Ursix Scattervine. he's got slow, he's got charge, and he creates another Ursix Scattervine. So this unit can become a major problem if you don't get rid of it quick enough. Right? Because what he does, he comes in, and he makes one of himself. And they've both got charge. Now, bear in mind, the 1 cost 3 health, sure, that's fine. You know, it's 1 cost 3 health. But as soon as it creates another one, realistically, this is a 2/6. But when you think about it that way, it's a 2/6 for 4. It can become a problem if left, you know, alone and just left to do its thing. But I think with that in mind, 4 costs for a 2/6 isn't great. And it takes up space on the field, where if it makes another one, it's taking up more space where you could deploy units. And it's got, so despite having charge, it also has slow. So I think this can be a potential problem depending on what kind of deck what kind of roster you're making. But I just don't see the value. I don't like it, if I'm honest. I think I would just rather flop 2 damage from something else rather than this comboing thing for a big play. I'd rather just get something out there right away. Aria. Stillness. Gains 75% accuracy until she moves or takes damage. She's 3 cost for 2 damage and 6 health with Stillness. So, Stillness, basically what you're wanting to do here. Stillness lasts for a long time. You plonk her down somewhere, you activate Stillness, and you just don't move, and you just keep shooting something. I like Aria a lot. She is squishy. Well, I say squishy. For 3 cost, the 6 health isn't great, but for this ability alone, and because it's semi-permanent, I think it's worth it. I like Aria a lot. Again, low cost aggro decks, I think it's good to have because you can plonk her down with your other low cost units. You know, turn 1 Max, turn 2 Taria, turn 3 Aria. Already you're onto a winner. You're already overwhelming, especially in the ranged part. And because of ranged, melee things have to get close to you to deal the damage. I like Aria a lot. Not a must-have by any means, but just a solid unit. Just a solid, decent unit. Right. Axl Pyro. 6 health, 3 cost, 1 for Fire Flamer to deal 2 damage. So already, right? Already, this is much better than the Beatris Enforcer. Right? Because, let's have a look at burn here. Takes 1 damage for the next 3 turns unless healed. So really, this is reading deals 5 damage. Really. This is what this is. So, he's a 3 cost for 1 that essentially deals 5 damage to a whole bunch of things in an area. He does only have 6 health, so again 6 health for 3 isn't great, but when you consider the potential for this, and the fact it's only 1 Cinder to do this, 1 Cinder for like 5 damage to a whole bunch of units, if you think about it that way, he's already better than Detonia as well. We already said Detonia is for like 4 cost for a potential 6 damage. This guy's 4 cost for a potential 15 damage if you're hitting 3 units. So yeah, depending on the roster you have, you might want to consider this a must-have, but very much like Aria, a very, very solid unit to have. I would put this over Aria in terms of his usefulness. So yeah, I don't play around with Axl a lot, and realising that as I'm going through this, I probably should start investing in him. Let's experiment with that later on. Crankbait. Another Extelior must-have. Grappling Chain. 3 cost, 1 damage, 9 health. Beefy, but no damage. What's it do? Grappling Chain, move unit towards Crankbait. So what you're doing, this is again a situational piece. This is a tactical piece where you put down Crankbait. They eventually come on the next turn when they're not summoning sick. You grab them and you pull them towards your Extelior, or you pull a low-cost unit towards something else. You're basically making sure that no one gets out. The other thing you can do as well, you can pull your own units. So if your own units are maybe in a sticky situation, you can use Crankbait to pull them out of it. So a versatile unit that can provide a lot of tactical movement solutions. I like Crankbait a lot, but again, you're not probably going to play Crankbait in a aggro roster. So it's all about what kind of roster you have. But if you're going Extelior, Crankbait's got to be in there as well. Just has to be. Is what I would think. Snareling. Well then. Look at that fish. Right. When Snareling hits, immobilize target for a turn. Now, here's the thing to note about Snareling. So here's a 3 cost. 3 cost with 7 health and 1 damage. The damage is not great, but it is ranged. Very important. 7 health, fairly beefy. When it hits. Not when it does damage, but when it hits. This can hit something for 0, and that 0 counts as a hit. And that target is immobilized. So this has great synergy with the character Crosshair, which we'll get to in a little bit. So this has fantastic synergy with other set pieces. And also, it's not melee, it's ranged. So he can just be very annoying and prevent people from moving. It can prevent people from moving to let your slow units get in range. It can stop people from moving to get your Extelior in range. It can prevent something from moving just to get all your units in range if you manage to hit a captain and you just want to sort of, swarm them and smack them around. Snareling, you can put in an aggro deck. Snareling, you can put in a heavy defense deck. Snareling, you can put in pretty much any deck because this ability is super useful. He borders on... I actually, no, he doesn't even border on must-have. I generally think most rosters would want to have a Snareling. He provides too much utility to just leave him alone. Because also, you have to think about it, there'll be other powerful pieces who might be waiting back, and Snareling just goes, bop! You can't move now, and because they can't move, they can't hit you. So he can basically lock down a unit for ages. Lock down a unit or lock down a captain depending on what you want to prioritise, because it's when it hits, not when it deals damage. So Snareling, definitely a great unit to have. Toxoid! Airborne, poison. So airborne, he can move through obstacles, so he can hop over things. He also has poison. Poison being that if he deals damage, you reduce the target's health to 1. Right? And it restores 1 health at the end of its turn. So it's only got 5, but it does keep itself alive. So you're probably... Yeah, we say it's got 5 HP. It's probably really got 6 or 7. Realistically. So it's a 3 cost for a 1... In fact, not even a 1 damage. It's a 3 cost for X damage and 7 health. This is pretty good. If you're playing against beefier teams, you do want this. However, bear in mind, if they have armor, he's not going to hit them. Because this does say after damaging. So you want to damage, and bear in mind it's only crew, it doesn't reduce captains to 1 health. That would be stupid. It's only crew. So you're using him to get rid of big chunky crew members down. And also, remember we talked about Drumdancer, giving him pummel? If you give him double hit, he hits the crew, gets to the 1, hits him again and kills him outright. Great to be used with Astra, because remember Astra's passive ability, if Astra kills something, she reinforces something back to her bridge. for free. So this is great synergy with Astra, but also just kind of a great unit as well to get rid of beefier things. You will have to give him some damage up if you want to get armoured units, but that's still pretty damn good. And speaking of damage up, here it is! Amplifier Bitol! Oh, look how happy they are! They're having a great time. I love this unit. This is a must-have, personally for me, but let's get into it as to why. 4 cost, expensive. 5 health, pretty squishy. Only 1 attack, well that's pretty rotten. But allies in range have +1 attack. So Amplifier Bitol, on the turn you deploy him, you don't need to wait a turn, on the turn you deploy him, gives everything +1. This is a great aggro unit. Great aggro unit. Because all of a sudden, remember what we talked about, our low cost aggro? All of a sudden, Maximus is hitting for 2 a turn, and he's got rapid fire. So he's hitting for 4. Maybe he's critting for 8 if he gets 2 crits off. Who knows? The Taria, they're hitting for 3 apiece if they want to beef themselves up. You know? Your Aria as well, they've got that 75, they've got stillness, they've got their accuracy right up. They're now hitting for 3 as well. Everything gets amped up, and all those little bits of damage, they just stack and stack and stack. This, if you're talking about, I've not really spoke much about ship assists, but if you get corrosive plus Amplifier Bitol, whoo, oh boy, what a turn that's going to be. What a turn that's going to be. You are probably only going to get 1 use of him, because as soon as Amplifier Bitol comes out, they are probably going to be a focus down. But if somebody doesn't focus them down, or you keep them safe enough, like Exteller can even use them by shielding them up, and then Exteller is dealing extra damage with his sword. You know, like, so goes great in Exteller deck, goes great in any kind of Astra deck, goes great in a Zax deck. It just goes great in any roster. For me, yeah, this is 100% a must-have 4 cost unit. It is expensive, but you're dropping it for the late game, is my thought. So yeah, I love Amplifier Bitol. Where are we? Oh, Broken Vengence, BV. Right. Must have. Right off the bat. He's a 7 cost, he's beefy, he's 3 damage, and he's ranged. Right? Not only this, immediately attack any crew that damages Broken Vengeance. So this is one of the only ranged characters that will crack back when attacked. Only melee characters tend to crack back when they're attacked, but Broken Vengeance is the one ranged unit that does, and he's hitting for 3. Your Maximus with rapid fire, oh, he hits Broken Vengeance for 1, then he hits him again for 1. Well, Maximus is now dead because Maximus only has 6 health, and Broken Vengeance hits for 3. So he's a great unit where you do want to focus him down, but it's kind of like, how do you focus him down? You know, like, how do you, and again with that 7 health, it's like, how do you focus that down? So hence why he has a 4 cost. I say he's aptly costed, but he's a great unit to have, and definitely a must have kind of in any roster. He just suits. Chuck and Go. Oh, look at these guys. Chuck and Company. So he's an armoured unit, so he takes 1 less damage, so this 8 health is now effectively 16. Toss it, throw a unit and deal 1 damage to it, and he hits for 2. So he's got great health, not alright damage, but it's again melee range. However, he doesn't have slow, which is good. He does have armor, which is good. So this is a beefy boy, and he can throw a unit but deals 1 damage to it. So now you've got tactics here. That 1 cost toss it is great, because you can toss a unit of yours into position, you can toss a unit of theirs away. Do you know what I mean? It's great for just maneuverability, and it's got a lot of survivability. Like this, Chuck and Co is definitely going to be annoying. In terms of, this is great for melee based rosters. So again, Exteller definitely wants to have him. Astra would want to have him if the Astra's going, a bit more defensively. But, yeah, just kind of a good all-rounder. I don't see where I would have him in a Zax aggro roster. Just because it's a 4-cost unit and it's not ranged. Kind of Zax, if you're building a roster, you're kind of wanting mostly ranged for aggro purposes. But hey, this is still a solid, good unit. And if maybe you're not going Zax aggro, maybe you're doing a different Zax roster, in which case this could fit. Because he's chucking things away, or he's chucking things towards you. Fantastic. So yeah, decent, solid unit. Nothing really else to say. Crosshair. Crosshair. 8 health, beefy, 4 cost. Crosshair would always crit if she was in play and her target didn't move last turn. Right. Okay. Remember how we spoke about Snareling? If you have taken Snareling, you are taking Crosshair too. Because you would be a fool not to. This 3 damage becomes 6. Just straight off the bat. With Snareling, this is hitting for 6. Just every single time. So if you think about it, if you use Snareling on 1 turn, you lock down a target, right? Then you deploy Crosshair. That target doesn't move. Crosshair right off the bat hits for 6. Snareling hits again on the same target. That's another 6 damage next turn. It's just so good. So good. And there's tons of other ways to lock things down as well. You've got the Ship Assist, Stasis Field. You've got Jailbreak, who we're just about to approach in a second. There's so many other ways. Peacemaker as well. There's so many other ways of locking down units that just makes Crosshair very, very valuable. Especially if you want to build around them. This Crosshair can be a win condition on their own. Jailbreak. Look at them pits. Look at them hairy pits. What a lad. Right. He's airborne, so he can jump up over obstacles. And touching rivals are immobilized. So immobilized simply means they can't move while they're locked up to him. I'll say it all right away. Jailbreak is not good against Zax. Because Zax with his basic attack pushes a unit back. But not only that, Zax has his Grav Pull, where he can pull himself away from Jailbreak. So Zax just straight out counters Jailbreak. Yeah, sure, you need to waste an attack or a bit of Cinder to do so. Maybe you consider that a bit of value. But Whereas Extilior or Astra can't get away from him. Extilior has to fight him. Yeah, Extilior can do a bit of damage, but he does have 8 health. He is on the beefy side. And obviously, you can use him to lock down other units. Granted, again, if you're up against a Zax, yes, Grav Pull and stuff like that gets him away. But still, very situational, denies movement, and can give yourself the advantage when it comes to positioning. So a good unit, not a must-have, not a great unit, but a good unit. Bordering on solid. Right now, I would just say good. I just think there's too much in the game that can counter him too easily, but if you can get him down and they don't have and their opponent doesn't have an answer to them, he can be very, very clutch. Plus, this model is nice. I really like the model. In fact, all the models are nice. And I love how he's just swinging rocks about. Like, you just... Brr! Brr! But yeah, that's my thoughts on Jailbreak. Nico Hall. Right. This is Astra's best friend. We spoke about Extilior's best friend. I don't even know if we spoke about Zax's best friends, but this is Astra's best friend. Return an ally to bridge and fully restore it. So yes, it costs 2 cost. It's not got any armor. It is fast, so it can move, and it's got 9 health. So it's a bit on the beefy side, and it can move, which is great. The thing is, it is 4 cost, but here's the thing. You could have a unit, right? You could have a unit. It deals damage to something and it takes damage back. I say it's a melee unit. Deal damage and takes damage back. Or maybe you've got a ranged unit that's taken a bit of a beating, but you still use it to hit something. Once you have done their attack, you send it back up to the bridge with this, right, for 2 cinder. Right? And if you're Astra, you then call it back down. And since you've called it back down, and it's fully healed, you then use your Into the Breach to unstun it for the turn and get to use it again. So with Astra, this is a fantastic piece, and if you're playing Astra, you want this in your roster. Okay? Definitely. Peacemaker. Stun all crew in area for a turn. 4 cost, but this spell it does cost 2, and they are only 5 health, so they are very low on the health side, quite squishy, but this ability can be an absolute game changer, and it has been for me. Not a must-have for any means, but I would say if you're playing a kind of defensive roster, you're going to want to put Peacemaker Balam in there. That ability can be so clutch, it can save you so much, and just remember, because it's all crew in an area, if you're fighting against an enemy Astra can only unstun 1 crew. And now Astra has to have the decision, do they want to unstun a key piece, or do they want to unstun something they're about to summon? And you also have to think about, well, what's Astra's movement? Is she far away where she can unstun something? If, say, she's got a massive Tipu out in the middle of nowhere, where she's nowhere near, you can stun that Tipu. And remember, guys, when a melee unit is stunned, they cannot crack back. They cannot hit you back, so they're just going to take damage for free. So very, very good unit. Solid defensive unit, and a must-have in defensive rosters. But obviously in aggro or other kind of rosters, you're probably not going to have them. Savria Safeguard. Reduce the next damage to a unit to 0. 2 cost, 8 health, beefy, with a 1 cost shield barrier for 4. This is a great unit. For a defensive roster, you're wanting to have Savria in there. Like, brilliant defensive unit, because it just reduces any damage. Now, the one unfortunate thing would be, is if your opponent gets Plink, then this is just annoying. But if they don't have Plink, this can stop massive bombardments. It's a great deterrence to Orbital Strike. It's a great deterrence to the Florio Bombarder. All the rest of it. You know, just, you have to use something small to get rid of the shield barrier before you can deal your massive damage. And say you've already spent a turn getting like sent off for a big hit, like your Amplifier Bitol, your Taria to give something rapid fire, and all of a sudden this comes in and goes, no, you don't get to do all that damage. So a very, very good unit that negates 1 big piece of set damage. Not a must-have. Again, defensive piece. Defensive rosters want them. But a good unit. Shrapnel. 4 cost, 2 damage, 7 health. So 7 health is alright. 2 damage is good. Can only attack units in range and target all units when attacking, so this can hit your own. Now, I said 7 health is fine, but then I realised armour. So this has got 14 health. So we've got a beefy girl who is attacking everything in a spread. This is all, and it's ranged. So Shrapnel is a great defensive, offensive piece. It's going to hit everything. It's got a lot of health. This is not easy to get rid of, and it's going to be annoying. You know what I mean? So, yeah, very solid unit. Literally a solid unit. Like, she is fantastic. It's hard pressed to say why she's not a must-have for me. I think it's because it goes onto the roster. It depends on what the roster is. That I think there's certain rosters where she is a must-have, and then there's other ones where I'm like, maybe you'd want something else out instead. But certainly a fantastic unit to have. Everyone's favourite melee boy, Tipo. Who's a good Tipo? Who's a good boy? You're a good boy. Whenever Tipo hits, permanently gains 1 attack and 1 health. So, Tipo goes from being a 3-7 to a 4-8. From a 4-8 to a 5-9 to a 6-10 and so on if you keep attacking him. He goes great synergy with Drumdancer because he gets pummeled, he's hitting twice, and he's getting that +2/+2. And that's for a 4 cost. Already, he's hitting for 3. That's already great value for Cinder. Yes, he's got no armor, so it's lower on the health, but absolutely worth it. If you let Tipo get the better of you, woofed. And also, he's kind of, like, obviously Tipo would mostly die, but he's a bit of a counter to poison units, because remember, if someone hits Tipo with poison, yes, he goes down to 1, but Tipo hits back, and because Tipo hits back for 3, he then all of a sudden goes up to 4, and since he was down at 4 health, he gets that increase in health back, and he goes to 2. So a bit of a counter there, but still, very solid unit. Every single melee roster wants him, even aggro rosters want him. Kind of a must-have, genuinely, in almost every situation, apart from very, very specific rosters. But yeah, generally a must-have, kind of mostly everywhere. Torian Guardian, the defensive unit of the game. Torian Guardian and the nearest ally in range and line of sight are 40% harder to hit. And they hit for 3 with a bit of 7 health. Tiny bit of health, 3 hit, 4 Cinder, and also makes them 40% harder to hit. So already, if you've got Deadeye, sure. If you've got Deadeye or Aria, then yes, you're kind of negating this. But for everyone else, bear in mind, this includes also melee. Whenever you're doing a melee attack, a melee goes to 100% right away. This negates that by 40%. So it's giving melee attackers 60% chance to hit. And any ranged characters before cover and before distance, they're already at 60% base. So most ranged characters are probably realistically at a 50% chance to hit with this, or less, with Torian in the field. Towards towards Torian and whatever target they're intercepting. So, great defensive unit. If you're playing a defensive roster, must have. Like, just a must have. Ursix Nectarvine. Restore 2 health to allies in range every single turn. The one thing that sets this for me is the immobile. Now, I know why it's immobile. It's a 4 cost, it's 8 health, it's going to heal everything for 2, and it does heal on the turn you set it down. So, you could be spending 4 Cinder to heal 2 or 3 things. So, you're spending 4 Cinder to heal 4, or you're spending 4 Cinder to heal 6. That's completely fine. But it is probably going to die next turn because people are probably going to focus it down. So you don't get a lot of use out of it. This is a situational defensive piece. Very situational. Can be great if you can position it well and defend it and get all your guys around so that you're kind of becoming some sort of impenetrable fortress. But if you do that, you're leading yourself up to group attacks. So it all sort of depends. But I have seen players use this to great effect, where they became pretty much indestructible. But then there's other times where it doesn't really do much. So know what your roster is. Defensive piece, yes. But I wouldn't put it anywhere else. Like, Torian is a great defensive piece, but I even would consider putting that in other rosters. This is a pure defensive piece, and even at that, it might take up a slot that you want to use for something else. It's all about how you want to play and what it is you want to heal. The Aegys Sentinel. Armor, immobile. It deals 3 damage to all units in an area. So, you set this up You can set it up as a blocking piece, and it can deal a lot of damage in an area. So it does say an area. Flechette is a cone, so it's not like a bombardment, but it is a cone. But unlike other things, because it's a cinder cost, it's always going to hit. It has 12 health plus armor, so we have 24 health. So it's a 5 cost for 24 health that has an ability that's going to deal 3 damage to all units in an area every single time, as long as they've got line of sight. This is a very good unit. Great defensive piece. Great tempo piece. It's not low cost aggro, but it can fit well in most rosters. It can also be used as a tactical piece in terms of movement and closing people off, because you can use it to close off a gap that no one can then get through. So absolutely a very, very good piece. Not a must-have, but again, very solid piece. Literally solid. Florio Lancer. We've already spoken about Florio. 5 cost. It is slow, but bombard. Deal 3 damage to all units in the area. 8 health. So it's got no armor. It's a bit beefier in terms of regular units, but it can be focused down. But this bombardment, so it does have a sphere, it does have a circle, it can't just bombard the entire map, it does have a range limit. But that bombardment is going to be dealing 3 damage to everything in an area all the time if you let it. This, again, is great in the Astra deck, because Astra, again, can get this down. And because Astra late game doesn't use a lot of Cinder cost, she can use that excess Cinder to use on all these things. Whereas if you're playing Zax, you're thinking about, do you want to mine? Do I want to grav pull? What other things do I want to do? If you're playing Extelior, do I want to shield? Or do I want to spin my sword around? You know, there are other costs that you need to think of. And again, because Astra reduces Cinder cost, Zax and Extelior don't get that luxury. So if they're playing higher cost units, you have to think, do I want to play a higher cost unit or do I want to do this? Astra's very much like, I'm playing a higher cost unit and doing that. So great in an Astra deck. Absolutely fantastic. Borderline must have in an Astra deck, if I'm honest. Furia. If Furia didn't attack on a turn, take 1 damage and gain 3 attack for the next attack only. So bear in mind, giving Furia, she seems great, but it's a trick. If you give Furia rapid fire and she gets that plus 3 attack, she doesn't attack for 5 twice. She attacks for 5 and then she attacks for 2, because that plus 3 attack is for the next attack only. So, albeit, yes, if you give her rapid fire, she'll be doing 7 damage over 2 turns. But if you think about it, she's not doing damage in the next turn either if you want that plus 3. So, it's up to you. Do you give her rapid fire? So, obviously, when she comes out, she's getting that plus 3 because she's not moved. So, on the turn you can use her, she's hitting for 5. And then she can hit for 5 again. So, she can hit for 10 over 3 turns. Or she can hit for 9 over 3 turns. You know, it's kind of that way. You want to hit for 9. You want to hit for 10. Oh, sorry. If you want to hit for. Sorry. She's either hit for 10. Sorry. My mistake. She's hitting for 10 over 4 turns. Or she's hitting for 9 over 3 turns. On her 4th turn, she's hitting for 11. So already, you're probably already better just using it. After the initial hitting for 5, you're just better off hitting for 2 each time. So the action economy isn't really worth it for Furia. You'd get more value for Broken Vengeance. You get more value for other lower cost units, because you can, you know what I mean, for the same cost as you're playing Furia, for 1 Cinder more, you can play Broken Vengeance and Taria. Or like for the same amount of Cinder, you can play Broken Vengeance and Maximus. And you're already hitting for 5 every turn with those 2. Do you know what I mean? If you give Broken Vengeance like double, like rapid fire, you're your next turn, you're hitting for 8. And Broken Vengeance is going to hit anything that hits him back. So Furia seems like a really good unit, but actually I think she's kind of bad. Furia is not a unit I want to have. She is beefy, but it's just, she doesn't bring value. She's kind of clutch and situational when you think about it that way. So I don't like it for those reasons. Right, Quetzalcoatl. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I apologise if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Quetzalcoatl. Whenever an ally in range has depleted movement, refresh it. 5 remaining this turn. So 5 cost, 410. You might think, well, that's not great. Ho ho, ho ho ho. He's not immobile. He can move, which I didn't realise. So that was my bad in one of my matches. He can move. And remember Beatris Enforcer, that slow person? Well, he's taking her with her. Also, your Extelior is moving with and getting into range to beat people in the face. This is a great unit. A fantastic unit that only low cost aggro doesn't want to have because of his 5 cost. Even at that, maybe you want to put it in there. It gives such great tactical movement and lets you control areas and gets your guys in all about the place. Fantastic. And again, an Extelior must have. Even an Astra possibly must have. Kind of maybe a must have for most groups unless you're going low cost. That's the only situation where you don't take them. Brilliant unit. Switchback! Another one of Astra's prime joys. So 5 cost, 3 attack, 8 damage, fast, and switch it up. Gain rapid fire and slow for 2 turns for 2 Cinder. So, already it's high cost. The health isn't great, but he is attacking for 3, and he does give rapid fire. So that because 3 damage automatically becomes 6 damage. Now, what the good use here for Switchback is with Astra. Again, I told you we're going to say about it. Astra summons him. Astra's going to have this cost lowered by the point, probably usually to about 3. He summons him. Astra then unstuns him, and then we get to use Switch Up. So we get to do 6 damage right off the bat as soon as we summon him with Astra. If you're playing Extelior or Zax, you don't want him. Maybe you do just for the rapid fire, but you're not going to get the same value out of him that Astra is going to. For that reason, I wouldn't put him in an Extelior deck. I would want more defensive pieces. If I'm doing Zax, I don't know. I think it's just too high a cost for Zax. Is my honest opinion in that. Right. And then we get to these units. Tona Mystic Manteo. Great for Extelior, great for Astra. You're not wanting for Zax at all. At the end of your turn, restore one health to your captain for each unspent Cinder. Late game, this guy can restore 10 health to your captain if you just let him. So he's only got 6 health, but if you keep him safe, he can be a game changer for Astra and Extelior. Because Extelior, again, likes to get in people's faces. He is going to be taking damage back. With this guy, he just gets all that health back. So fantastic unit for Extelior, fantastic unit for Astra, but I would not recommend him for Zax. Okay? 6 health, quite low, can be easy to deal with. So if you see someone play this guy out, you do want to get rid of it, otherwise late game he is going to become a massive nuisance. Aegis Defense Dome. Oh boy! Right. We know it's a 6 cost. Okay, this is a very expensive unit. However, it's got 10 health. No armor, but still 10 health. A beefy lad. But damage to allies in range is reduced by 1. You throw this boy down and you're armored up, nothing's getting through. This is a fantastic set defensive piece. If you are going pure defense, you must have it. I cannot state this so much. You must have this in your deck. This is something that goes well with the Nectarvine, because Nectarvine is taking less damage, people are taking less damage, and you're all healing at the same time. It can move as well. Nectarvine is immobile, but this boy can move with you. So you throw this in, you've got Beatris Enforcer, you've got Shrapnel. Because they're armoured, this stacks. So if you have an armoured unit in this field, damage is reduced by 2. And most pieces are hitting for 2. If this is out and you're surrounding it, your opponents must focus this down, otherwise they're not going to get you. And especially in combination, if late game, you have this down, and you have the Tona Mystic down, they have to pick which one to focus, because your captain's just not going to be taking any damage. So yeah, great defensive piece. Must have if you're playing defense rosters. Micoani Thicket. Micoani Thicket. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Thicket. Poison, slow, trap prey. 6 cost, a large one, 10 health, beefy lad, 2 damage, but it has poison. It is slow, but it has poison. And also 2 cost, trap prey, move unit towards the Micoani Thicket, or Micoani Thicket. I'm just going to call it the Thicket. Moved unit towards the Thicket. With this poison, this is great, because your Aegis defense domes, it goes nah. Your armored unit, because it's for 2, it goes nah. So any big beefy units, this grabs them, pulls them in, and because they're hitting for 2, 1 damage is bound to get through. So it's a great answer to armored units, and it can whittle things down. So this is a great piece to have if you're trying to clear the field, where maybe someone is going super defensive. You use this to whittle things down to 1 health, get them with something else, and just slowly but surely eradicate their board in that way. It's got 10 health, so this isn't getting taken away like right away, and you're probably, by the time you've got this down, you're going to have other threats on the board as well. So this is a fantastic piece. Not a must-have, but certainly an answer to beefy defense rosters. A great unit, and a situational pick. It's a late game choice, is the honest answer. Lastly, but not least, the Novian Bulwark. 6 cost, 3 damage, 10 health, ranged. When Novian Bulwark attacks, it permanently gains 25% accuracy, and it gains immobile. Right, this seems good on paper, but this is a massive cost for something that's only going to deal 3 damage to 1 target. Sure, it gets 25% accuracy. Yes, it gets some mobile, so maybe you can lock things down, something like you can lock a pathway down, but it's only got 10 HP and it doesn't have armor. This is a bad unit, unfortunately. It's just too much cost for far too little. You know, you've got the Florio Lancer, where are they? You've got the Florio Lancer, who's dealing 3 damage to all units in the area, where it can hide about the place and move. You've got the Aegys Sentinel, which is armor and immobile, and deals 3 damage to everything in an area. This is only dealing 3 damage to 1 thing, and it becomes immobile, so that 1 thing has to be in range. This is just no. You're not picking this for whatever reason. Okay? So, with all that said, let's have a look at a couple of rosters, and we'll create them. So I've got my ones, but we're going to just create new ones, right? I'm not going to bother with the banner. Let's start with Astra. So let's say, what do we want for Astra? Well, let's have a look, and we're going to order them by cinder cost. We already said what some of our must-haves were. Maximus is a must-have, right? Who else did we say was a must-have for Astra? We were talking about some of these, like Snareling a must-have. Who else did we say? Crosshair is a must-have. Since we're playing Astra as well, we are wanting... Where is it? Switchback. So these are our core units for our must-have deck. Now, what we have to decide here is, are we going lockdown Astra, or are we going the defense Astra? If we were to go lockdown Astra, right? Let's say if we're going lockdown, we would want Jailbreak. Sorry. Also, we want Nico Hall as well. We'd want Nico Hall. We're going lockdown Astra. Fatetwister. No, it's Peacemaker Balam we're looking for. Maybe you're wanting Peacemaker Balam in there. Maybe you're wanting You want Torian as well, absolutely. And you would want... So we're going the lockdown. Maybe want Tipu in there as well. And since we've got Tipu and a few things, we might want Drumdancer. So let's have a look at the list view. So that's it. So we've got enough melee attack reserve to make use of Drumdancer. We've got Snareling, we've got Jailbreak, who can basically lock down things for Crosshair. We've got Tipu in there. We've got Switchback to make use of Astra's abilities. We've got Neko Hall as well to make use of that. And we've got Peacemaker as well to make use to lock things down for Crosshair too. So you can see how this kind of works. And also you've got Torian Guardian for a bit of defense to make sure things are protected, whether you're protecting Crosshair or whether you're protecting Astra. You can see how this roster works right off the bat. So I'll leave that open, and you can try this roster out for yourself, see how it works. That's just an example view, right? But, so that's a kind of a lockdown thing. What if we didn't want a lockdown? What if we wanted defense? Okay. So, if we wanted defense, I would probably still... Crosshair in. I would still probably keep these 4 in. I would still keep these 4 in. But for defense, we would still keep Neko Hall in. Where are you? Still keep Neko Hall in. We're wanting... Pardon me, sorry. Just a big burp there. We're keeping Aegys. We'll put in Nectarvine. And who else would we want? Put in the Tona Mystic. We would put in... Do we have Torian? We put in Torian. Now, the question is, who else do we put in? We've got the Aegys Sentinel. So if we were going a bit more defensive, we would put these things in. So let's have a look at the list view. So already you can see that we've kind of kept this the same. We've not got the same amount of lockdown for Crosshair, but what we do have, like we did have last time, we've got Necol to pull things out and bring them back. We've got the Defense Dome to prevent things hurting us. We've got the Nectarvine to heal us. We've got the Tona to heal us. We've got the Torian Guardian. And we've got the Sentinel, which is armoured and going to deal damage in an area. So already we've got so many things going for us if we wanted to go a bit more of a defensive route. Because remember, Astra is going to lower these stuns. So this is what I would use as an example of an Astra feed defense deck, or roster rather. You probably would want to change some things around here, but again, like I said, this is just a quick example, right? So that's probably a way. Those are probably a couple of ways you'd want to play Astra. So let's get rid of the list view. Let's get rid of them. What if you want to play Extilior? Well, what are Extilior must-haves? Right, we're going to have Drumdancer in there. We're going to have Drumdancer. We're going to have, again, Maximus is just too good not to have. We're going to have Stitchy. And we are going to have... Where is he? This guy. This guy right here. Right. So, can I have a look at. So these are probably your must-haves for an Extilior deck. And again, if you're going defensive Extilior, you probably want to have Beatris Enforcer. You probably want to have Shrapnel. You probably want to have... You want to have maybe Chuck and Co as well. You'll want to have the Defense Dome. Right? You probably want to have Broken Vengeance in there as well. Where is it? And it depends on what you want to do here. You can have a bit more range, or you can maybe throw in... Where is it? You might want to throw in... Oh, where's he going? Or did I throw him in there? Yeah, oh sorry, yeah, I've thrown in Broken Vengeance already. Sorry, that's what I was talking about. You might want to have a bit of range where you throw in Broken Vengeance. You might want to throw in, I don't know here. You might want Crankbait. That's you definitely want to throw in Crankbait. So you've got your armored units, you've got a couple of ranged, and you've got enough there to sort of just get Extiller into place with Crankbait. You've got Quetzalcoatl to move him around. You've got Chuck and Co to throw things about. You've got the Aegis Dome to protect. You've got Stitchy to heal. This to me is what I like a sort of defensive Extiller roster would look like. Right, but again, say you don't want that. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the list view. So Drumdancer, you've got all these melee people to use Drumdancer for. You've got Stitchy to heal. You've got Quetzalcoatl to move about with. You've got Maximus because Maximus. You've got Broken Vengence because again he's very good. Crankbait to enable Extiller. The Aegis Defense Dome for extra defense. Shrapnel for just being beefy. You know, your issue with here would be maybe getting the Cinder cost to get all this out, but it is a good example roster. So there that is. But maybe, what if you don't want that? So what if you wanted maybe a more aggro based? So rather than that, what would you rather? Well, I would still put Crankbait in here, right? So I'm going to put Crankbait as a must-have. Where are you, Crankbait? There. So I would still put this in here. But what if you wanted to go a bit more aggro? So if you're going a bit more aggro, you might want Blindsider. You might want Taria. You're going to maybe want Axl, right? You're maybe going to want Amplifier. And you might want Tipu. So something like this, where you can move things about, position yourself for Axl. You could swap something out here for Broken Vengence. Because with Extiller, you're probably going to be spending a lot of Cinder. You may get a lot of use out of Blindsider. So yeah, again, let's get the list view up. This is an example, maybe like an example aggro Extiller roster. That's not going to be perfect. There might be some changes you want to make. But again, we're just thinking about the sort of things here, the things to think about, what our captain does, all the rest of it. Okay? So there you go. Right, so let's see my boy. So this is probably similar to what roster I've got already. Zax. If we're going low cost Zax, here's what we're doing. He's going in. She's going in. Do I want the Deadeye's going in? Aria's going in. Where's Taria as well? Is Taria not here? Did I not get rid of her? Taria, there she is. Couldn't see her there. Taria's going in. Oh, hold on a second, sorry. Taria's going in. Aria's in. Amplifier's going in. BV's going in. Broken Vengence. Going to put in Crosshair as well. So, who else do we have? I'm sure we had someone else. Tipu's going in. And who was the other one? Don't want any of you guys. Snareling, that was who. So there's last few. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 1 to 2 costs, 2 3 costs, and 4 4 costs. This isn't a sort of like what I would say a low cost aggro Zax deck would look like. You're going in with Zax, you've got Maximus, you've got Drumdancer to buff up Tipu or to buff up himself. You've got Deadeye to increase accuracy. You've got Taria to give all one of the ranged units rapid fire. You've got Snareling to maybe just work with Crosshair if that happens. You've got BV because Broken Vengence. And you've got Amplifier Bitol to up all this damage. And remember, Zax can also get the rapid fire from Taria. He can also pull things in. He can deploy mines. He can create space for everyone. He can pull, do you know what I mean? If Drumdancer is a bit too far out, he can pull Drumdancer into range to maybe give the Tipu the pummel ability. There's lots of stuff here that this works for that Zax can do. Now, what if you wanted to go a more controlling, like if you wanted to go Zax control? right? Let's have a look at that. So for Zax, we're still wanting Maximus, right? We're still wanting Taria. Where are you? Taria! There you are, right there. And we are wanting Amplifier Bitol. So you're still wanting those. You're probably still wanting Broken Vengence. Right? Now, we're wanting more control. So we're probably going to put in things. Let's see, what can we use for control? You probably would want Jailbreak. You'd want Peacemaker. You'd want... Let's see who we want here. You maybe want Stitchy. You maybe want Blindsider. Maybe want Drumdancer as well. And who else do we want? You would maybe want the Lancer. Because if you're locking things down... Now, I would maybe... You can maybe swap something here out for the Defense Dome if you wanted to make a bit more defensy. But you can see here, very similar to the Crosshair deck. We're wanting things out to stun. We're wanting to control the field. We're going to be using Zax's Mines and his pulls for that. We're going to lock things down with Jailbreak. We're going to be healing other things if they get hurt. You've got the Amplifier Bitol to up everyone's damage. You know, everything like that. So this is maybe what a more controlling Zax's list would look like. Okay, but you can see from the rosters that I've done how everyone has their kind of must-haves, how they all sort of work, and what you're looking to do. So, with that said, that completes the unit review and a roster example. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and you'll already see on my YouTube video, on my YouTube videos, that I've got a couple of matches I'm uploading and playing. I will be doing more of that. I'm part of a Moonbreaker League, so you will be seeing my future matches from the league on this space. If that's something that interests you, feel free to give it a watch, and I will hopefully all see you again. Safe sailing, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.